All right, we're going to start by going over your homework, which was question 73 through 85. So now after today, you've done an entire earth science region. So you can kind of get a feel of what it feels like to do them, how to read them, how long it might take you. We'll do some more over the next couple of days, but we're running out of time. So obviously we won't be doing too many. So we start off with question 73. Now with this 73 through 77, we have a map. They tell you they are isobars, represent air pressure in millibars. They labeled the low, they labeled the high, they have some fronts and all of that good stuff. They want to know what weather instrument is used to measure pressure. What is that? That is a barometer. Guys, you do need to know all the weather instruments. So quick review. A barometer is for pressure. What instrument do we use for temperature? A thermometer. Yeah, that one's not overly hard. I know people get confused. They're like, wait, it can't be that easy. Yeah, thermometer measures temperature. What measures wind speed? Do you remember what letter it begins with? No, that's not wind speed. It does spin though, but not because we're doing it. No, it starts with an A. It's an anemometer. We will review that one again at least one more time, but that's again something you got to remember. What measures wind direction? No, come on, you got to know this one. No, a wind vane. Those are those roosters, you know, that go top of the, oh boy, they have compasses on them. A wind vane? Yeah. Yes. Lots of places have them. Often they have roosters or other farm animals. Sometimes it's just arrows. It is. Yeah, cows, pigs. Typically it's a farm animal, but not always. And then that swingy thingy, what does that measure? The one, the sling psychrometer, and it measures dew point or relative humidity. Good. All right. Identify the type of front that exists eastward of New York State. So here's New York State. Here is the fronts they are speaking of, this guy, and they picked this one for a reason. And it is stationary. And please do not try to remember this because they picked the mixture one on purpose, hoping you would get these two guys confused. So there are stationary and occluded. They're the two with the mixture of the half circles and triangles. So it'll only take you, what, 5 seconds to double check your reference table? Just check your reference table. That one's a stationary front. Question 75, the air mass over location X right here originated in the Gulf of Mexico, right? The 2-letter air mass symbol that represents the air mass. This time they labeled the Gulf of Mexico, so you have no guessing. It's down here. It's water, and it's down near Florida. What letters do those get? MT. You could have accidentally used lowercase in place of uppercase. That they won't mark wrong. But if you wrote this as TM, I could not give you credit. So you have to copy it from the reference table. And it says this low pressure center, if this low pressure center follows a normal track, which direction will it move in the next 24 hours? Here's where you guys kind of got to remember to look at this reference table. The United States is in this section, so all of our winds blow from the southwest to the northeast. So you would have answered that one northeast. I could have also accepted east. And yes, you can abbreviate them or write them out. And then it asks, what is the general pattern of wind around a high pressure? So remember, they go out of a high pressure, just like a fart goes out of your butt. And or the clock is way up high on the wall, so it goes clockwise. They accepted one or both of these answers. So clockwise or out. But if you put both answers, they both have to be right. You need to elaborate because no one else, I think, uses that example. My daughter and her friends thought I was insane when I brought it up the other day. So I also may have embarrassed my daughter, which was bonus points for me. So yeah. They asked you then to draw for question 78. You had to draw the 100 inch line. So here's the deal, guys. Your 100 inch line had to be perfect. It had to come all the way to the edge of the map here. If you just started at 100 here and didn't have this little section, I had to mark it wrong. So put the hundreds where 100 belongs. So right here, below the 75, below the 25, just to the left of the 150. Don't touch that 102. Go down and around in between 72 and that 150, in between 75 and 103. Make sure you hit this 100. Down underneath the 135, make sure you hit the 100. And then again, take it to the edge of the map. You can do a quick check. Everything inside here is bigger than 100, and everything out here is less than 100. So just please do that really carefully, following all the rules. But see how much easier it is to do. This is all they asked you to do. They didn't ask you to do 100 of them, just one line. Make sure you read the directions just in case they tell you something different. For 79, I could have taken any number in between 100 and 200, because what letter was this asking about? Letter 79, location A. So notice here's the 100 line right there. There's the 200 line. Most of you probably put 150, right? Oh, okay. So you can't put 100. So the way you know you can't put 100 is because it's not on the 100 line. So, oh, that works. That's perfect. Those are the numbers that it's anything in between 100 and in between 200, but not 100 or not 200. You legit could have put 100.1 or 99.9 as long as you didn't put 100 or 200. Anything in between. For the gradient, they did give you a range here, so your answer could have been between 1.4 and 1.6. Anybody need me to show you how to do that one? Okay, that's what I thought. So 80, what was the letters it said? Between B and C. So B was 12 and C is 102. So we need to do the change divided by distance. It's technically the change in field value divided by distance. So to figure out how much it changes, you have to subtract. So I take 102 minus 12, which, yep, is 90. I should have just taken your word for it. Now here's where people might have had slightly different answers. So I always recommend using a scrap paper and marking off on my scrap paper the two lines, bringing it down to the scale. And to me, it looks perfectly lined up with the 60. So 60 divided by 90. Oh, not that. 60 divided by 90. Oh, no, it's not 60 divided by 90. Why are you guys listening to me? It's 90 on top. 90 divided by 60. 1.5. Now, I am surprised they gave you the units here. So make sure you know where those units came from. It was 90 centimeters and 60 kilometers, which gives you centimeters per kilometer. And then why does it rain more at X? Where the heck is X? Or is that on this map? It is. It's on this map. Here we go. Here's X. Notice, so here's a mountain. The winds are coming from this way. So X is on the windward side of the mountain. Okay. Ready? Questions? All right. 82. Calculate the number of days it takes the Earth to travel in its orbit from A to D. How the heck did you do this? Math. You got to math it up. So my question is, how long does it take for the Earth to go all the way around that circle? 365. How do I know that? It is. That's how long a year is. There are 4 stops it has to make. So 365 divided by 4. Each one of these takes 91.25 at each stop. To go from one stop to the other takes approximately 91.25 days. How many stops do we need to make? A to B, that's 1 trip. B to C, that's a second. C to D, that's 3. I'm going to take that 91 and multiply it by 3. 273.75. They accepted any answer from 270 to 278. You what? All right. Identify the latitude where the sun is directly overhead the earth at position B. So first of all, what season is position B? Summer. And again, how do you know that? No, sirree, Bob. Yes, because it's tilted towards the sun. And then you can either figure it out that the direct rays of the sun are hitting right there. So that's where that 90-degree angle is, or you can memorize that it's at the Tropic of Cancer. But guys, when it says what's the latitude, they want a number. That's 23.5 degrees north. Unfortunately, they did not accept the answer Tropic of Cancer, which to me is right. I don't know if they would have, if we would have argued if they would have let us give you points for that, but on the directions, it did not give that as an option. Okay, don't do that. Always look at where it's tilting. The primary force that causes the Earth's orbital velocity to change, that's gravity. Remember, when it's closest, we have it's moving faster. And then finally, what would happen if the tilt was even more? So if it was tilted more, we'd have hotter summers and colder winters. Not necessarily because they would freeze even more than in the winter. Yeah. I was thinking yeah, we all make mistakes, so I won't fault them at that. Let me just explain it. So if you have me for lab, I've actually already done this question, but if it was tilted more, in the summer, we'd have more direct rays of sun, but in the winter, we'd be even farther from getting that sunlight, so it'd be colder. All right, anybody got any questions on any of those we went over? Now, how about this? Did you keep track of how many you got wrong? No. Okay, so if you did or you didn't, that's okay. I kind of want to show you where your grade comes from for the Regents, though. So since you have taken a whole test now. So So the first thing I want to talk about is, I know some people are starting to get weirded out and think, I even heard my own daughter, who I darn well know is not going to fail. She says, I'm going to fail. Everybody starts panicking about this time of the year, especially if you get 1 or 2 questions or a bad grade here and there, people start to panic. And I want to tell you to relax. I'm not telling you to blow it off, but I want to tell you to relax. And here's a couple things. Has anybody here taken the practical yet? Did you? Okay, so Gus, how was it? Do you feel that we prepared you for it? Okay, that's the best question. So Gus says it was easy. Some of you might not think Gus is the best judgment though, because he does really well anyway. But I'll tell you that everybody I've asked so far, Austin Higgins told me he thinks he got 100. Couple other people said it was really easy. So what I want to tell you is that you're prepared, first of all. We've been getting you ready in lab. Think of those practice labs we've been doing. We're at 16 points, but there's partial credit all over the place on this. It's not like my test, where if you get 1 wrong, It's all wrong, first of all. There's partial credit. So one of them's an earthquake thing. So remember how I always tell you you could be off by like 20 seconds or 200 kilometers? Well, what if you were off by 30 seconds or 300 kilometers? Well, okay, you lose that point. But what I do is I take your wrong answer and do all the stuff with it to see if your next answer was right based on your wrong answer. And if it was, you get partial credit. In fact, so if it's worth 4 points, you get 3 points if everything else is right based on your answer. So I don't want anybody giving up on that practical. If you're struggling, get something on the paper so that I can then use that wrong information to keep going on your test. So you'll be okay, I promise. Partial credit everywhere. Plus, it's not there, like I've been talking about, there's a curve, and this paper here is how I figure out your grade. So this is one of those charts, kind of like the dew-point relative humidity chart, where you put your finger here, bring them together, and there's your grade. So how it works is the performance, which is your lab thing that you're doing this week, is on the top. You can see it starts at 16, goes to 0. And then the written test, there's 85 possible points. I want to say, let's say you got 4 questions wrong. That's 1 wrong on each station plus 2 wrong on one of them. So you get 4 questions wrong. Even if you got 6 questions wrong, we'll do that one too. Let's talk about 4. To pass with getting 4 wrong, let's scroll down. So you get 12 correct. To pass here at a 65, you only need to get 40 right out of 85 on the Regents, on the written part. So 40 out of 85, that's not even half. You don't even need half right on the test to pass. Yeah. If you do decent and get a 12 out of 16. If you get 10, so you miss 2 on each, you still are passing as long as you get a 41 on the Regents, on the written part. Still less than half right. Like all of these, if you got half of them right on the practical, that then means you only need a 43 on the written part to just pass. So everybody who's panicking, I'm not going to pass. Odds are in your favor, you're going to pass. I know some of you in here are not satisfied with just passing. So let me show you then, if you got 12 right, what the Regents considers mastery. Because mastered, I know a lot of people want that 100. A lot of people want 95s, 96s. The Regents doesn't say you need that. They say you're considered a master if you get an 85 or above. So an 85 with getting 4 wrong means you only need 63 right on the written part. You can miss 22 questions on the written part and still be considered a master. A lot of you are going to fall in the category between failing and master. Not everybody gets master. Most people don't fail. So most of you will be in between, getting maybe like 30 wrong, and you're still getting a good grade. You can kind of see here, the only way to earn 100 is to get no wrong on any of it. But there's a lot of ways to get 99s without even getting 100. So there's that. So I'm not telling you this to blow it off. I don't want you blowing off the Regents at all. But I want you not to panic about it. One more thing. I do want let me double check my list. According to my list, every last one of you in this room got credit for the Regents test last year, the living environment test. Last year, you did only need to get a 50 to get the credit. So some of you, I looked through, some of you I think got a 63. Which if you weren't considered COVID kids still, you would have had to retake the test. But COVID is still doing you guys a couple of favors. Anyway, every one of you in this room last year got your living environment credit, which officially means technically you do not need to pass the earth science Regents to graduate. So you have all earned your science Regents credit. Technically, you don't have to pass the Regents, so that's a little bit less pressure taken off of you. Okay, so here, but the next sentence was going to be, but, okay, there is a but. So yes, Cody, technically you could get your Regents credit that way, but you do have to pass the year to get that credit. So to passing the year, here's where I get your grade. I take quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and your regents. So here's where you can't fail it on purpose. If your quarter 1 through 4 were like mediocre, let's say you got like a 66, which was fine at the time, got a 66, a 67, maybe again a 66, and then maybe you even jumped your 4th quarter and got a 70. But if you bomb that region to get like in the 40s, those passing grades will be pulled down by your Regents test then. I've been mentioning that maybe we should pad our 4th quarter grades. Speaking of, I'm going to hand you back a test that you can do test corrections on. So you do still have a chance by doing the rest of the homeworks, doing test corrections, and keeping your lab grades super high this quarter, just to pad that 4th quarter just in case. But Cody, you're going to pass, okay? I'd really like you to prove some people wrong and just do the best you can. It can, yes. So if you had like a 63 or a 64 and you need to bump that up and get a passing grade for the year, yeah, your Regents can bring that up just like it could bring you down the other way. If you do end up not getting a passing grade for Earth Science, there is always summer school. You would only technically need to do credit recovery, which just means you need to do the work you missed and bump your grade up to passing. But in the meantime, I want to show you some of the things I have to help you get ready. So my daughter, I think I've mentioned like 800 times, is also taking Earth Science right now. And I'm going to share with you the exact same advice I give to her. So I gave her this packet already, and I'm going to give it to you too. It starts off, yes, there's some right there. I'll get these guys up here. The back of the room. I should just have All right, so it starts off with, once you get this, you'll, first of all, there's no work in this. Guys, don't panic. I'm not asking you to do anything on this. It starts off with 100, I think there's technically 101 need to know Earth Science facts. So I have gone through and I've pulled out like, know this and you'll do okay facts. So like, I think there's 101. Here's what I told my daughter to do. Go through and read them. If you read one, the same substance equals the same density, and you knew that, put a little star there. If you go through and you're like, as pressure increases, density increases, if you forgot that, highlight it. The next one, if you forgot that water expands when it freezes, highlight that. If you knew it, star it. I want you to spend hours reviewing things you already know. I only want you to focus on the stuff you don't know. Yes, read all of them. Maybe review all of them once or twice, but only focus in on the ones you don't know. One of my daughter's friends is going to do the same thing. She's going to make flashcards for the ones she doesn't know. If you're a flashcard person, try that out. If you're not, do what works for you. That leads me to a whole bunch. We had a little study group. Here's the benefit of having a mom who's an Earth Science teacher. And one of the girls goes, I don't know how to study. How many of you don't know how to study? I didn't know how to study until I got to college. Not going to lie. I had no idea what to do. Studying is not just reading this paper. Studying is doing some practice. So I am going to force you to do some practice, but you can also find good practice online. I'll post some really good practice sites on Teams over the next couple of days that you can review on your own. Even just doing some practice tests like we just did, that's good review. You can find those online as well. So everything there is available to you. I'll hook you up with some good review sites. But here's another way I'm going to force you to study. Here's your homework, and I'm going to pass this one out. I guess I should have done this a different way, but I didn't. This is your homework. Oh, but don't lose my Allen wrench. Goes right in the hole, the open hole.
I never lose.
Anyway, here's kind of how I'm going to force you to review. This is chapter 1. Oh, guys, I forgot to tell you about the rest of this packet. So the rest of this packet, if you turn the page, is actually your packets. Like here's chapter 1 condensed into one sheet of paper. So chapter 1, if you remember back to the first week of school with observation, inference, prediction, I showed you all those pictures and made you make observation, inference, and predictions. Here's those definitions. Remember, there was graphing at the beginning of the year. We did density stuff at the beginning of the year. Then we move on to chapter 2, which is maps. Here's all the notes from the whole mapping section condensed into one sheet of paper. I do that for all the different chapters. So everything is nice and condensed right here. This packet is essentially all the notes we did all year condensed into one little packet. So this is there for you to help you. Do I expect you to read through every single word? No, but probably a good idea. So here's how I'm going to force you to study though. Here's a review sheet for chapter 1. Again, if you were my daughter, I would tell you first to go through and do all the ones you know off the top of your head. Like for the first one, what do you need to make an observation, guys? What'd you say, Emily? Your brain? Yeah. Your brain's meant to use your 5 senses. If you knew that, no, not for observations. You don't use your ESRT for that one, but every other answer in our science, that's the answer. If you knew that, great, write it down. If you didn't, maybe put a little star next to it, then go find in the notes something you can experience in the environment using your 5 senses. So if you don't know it, go look it up. Guys, what's the point in guessing right now? Like now, today, what's today's date? 11 days before the Regents. Is there any point in guessing at this point? It's not. So guys, if you go look up the answer, that's called studying. Okay? So it is. So I know you guys just said you don't know how to study. That's one way. It's not the only way, but it's one way to get it in your brain. Where should you look it up? You can look it up right in this packet. You can look it up in your regular packet. For honest sakes, yeah, look it up on Google. But when you look it up on Google, make sure you also then think about it. And if you look it up anywhere, make sure you think about it and try and commit it to your brain for the next 11 days, at least. When the 20-something of June, yeah. So again, this is your homework tonight. Those of you who were absent on Friday, you also still need to do the rest of the test that we just went over, questions 72 through 85. So all of you that were absent on Friday, questions 72 through, I guess it's technically 73 through 85. Shane corrected me. First person all day to correct me, Shane. Yeah. You were the only one who knew the right answer. So this is your homework today. I want you working on this for the next 5 minutes. And then take it home and finish it. It is really important you start putting in the effort because your Regents is in 11 days. You probably should have been putting in the effort before now, but now it's really important. Any questions?